Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Lyfe Choyces podcast.
Yeah! Welcome back, everybody, to the Lyfe Choyces podcast here, where we discuss mindset, success, the good and the tough aspects of going after your passions. Today, we're very lucky. We have an international artist as our guest. We have Cayla Birk here. Welcome on.
Thank you so much.
I'm stoked, as I usually am with the guests we have, because I know pretty much you and most of our guests from before, and everyone is of the same mindset, I believe, and has come to successes in their own way, and they've done it in a good, positive manner. You know, nothing I've ever heard about you out in the world has ever been negative.
That's a good thing.
Which is huge, right? Like,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong.
It's nice to know you have a clean track record, you know?
Right, and we're not perfect humans because
course
we've
not.
all done bad things to people and hurt others, but the overall consensus is what a sweetheart, what an amazing girl, what a true artist she is. I was fortunate enough to come to your art show not too recently, a couple months ago.
In October, yeah.
Was it really in October?
It was in October.
No.
This year is flying by, though. Like more than the other years. I know everyone says that every year, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, 5 months in, it's done. And it's like, no, but actually, this is crazy that we're almost, by the time I come back from my trip that I have coming up, it'll be, the 6th month of the year. I can't believe that. So yeah, it was in October. Well.
That was literally, I think, them finishing dropping off the container next to us. Here on Lyfe Choyces, we have some interruptions from time to time because the studio is right next door to one of my closest friends who does metal and woodwork fabrication. Shout out to Hellbent Custom Garage. And right now they're receiving another container onto the property that, just sort of the things that happen here at the compound that we've talked about on the Lyfe Choyces podcast. So we're going to continue though, and we're going to use this in the podcast. So it's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable that it was October, and right now as we're recording, it is middle of May. The podcast won't go up for a few weeks because we do batch filming. However, like you said, we've touched on this on the podcast before. As we become mature in our years, the years tend to go faster.
Ain't that the truth?
Right?
Yeah.
So before we get in,
can't even disagree on that.
Right?
It's actually crazy.
So before we get into like the deep conversation here, could you share with us and our viewers out here a little bit of your background, a little bit how you got into becoming an artist, and we try to share with people the things that we've done so that we can become successful. We're not a do this kind of podcast. We're sharing what we've done to make our own lives happier and more positive. How did you go from, where you were maybe in like the grade school years, or maybe you started art maybe at like a 2-year-old to, where now you're selling artwork internationally?
Okay, so that's a really great question. I think that, and by the way, I really like that you said this is not a podcast where we tell you do this. We just share our experiences, because I think so many times people will ask you, no matter what you're successful or adept at, they tend to ask you, how did you make it work? Well, how does it work? People even ask you that when you say you've been married for 40 years. They're like, what's the secret? Like everyone wants that one thing that's just going to make it happen for them, which I don't think happens very often. And it really is just a case by case scenario. So to answer,
Life is very situational.
it's Lyfe Choyces.
Boom, mic drop.
It's
Perfect.
Lyfe Choices. It's true though. It's like everyone's choices that they make somehow lead them to where they are. And I always tell people, I'm 33 years old, and when I was...
Sorry, I got to interrupt you.
Yeah.
33 years young.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm 33 years young.
Perfect.
I've never felt like I'm old, so...
Yeah.
But I like that. I'm 33 years young. And to be honest with you, I think that a lot of decisions I made at a younger age, I always liked, to directly answer what you're asking me, I always liked being creative. I liked art when I was younger. I always showed a very big interest in art and just creativity in general. And at a really, really young age, I think I made this grand decision that I wanted to be the ideas person. Although I like to draw, I just never felt that I was as capable as others. And I grew up around a lot of talented different people. Even into my high school years, I went to Dreyfus, the High School of the Arts. But I didn't go there for visual arts. I went for communications because I always felt that I was the ideas person and I could delegate that better to those who are more adept at being visual artists.
Okay.
Which I mean, that's also very normal if anyone knows or has been to a high school of the arts or done any kind of, even college program when it comes to people who are visually, talented. It can be quite daunting, to be like, oh, well, I'm not as good as that. We all have that in our different ways, not just in art. That being said, when I was young, I always liked art and I wanted to be creative. And I knew that no matter what in life, I wanted to be the best at it. No matter what career that was, I just kind of had that drive in me and competition sense as a kid. When I was like maybe 8 years old, my mom, she was always really lovely, always very encouraging. I'm raised by a single mother who was just like a powerhouse of a person. And although we didn't come from much, she always definitely made me believe that I could do whatever I wanted. She was a mom who never put me into a box or said you have to do this to make money or whatever. She always told me and my brother and sister, never chase the almighty dollar because then you'll never get it. Like you just need to follow what you like and follow your passions because the money will come if you really do find that. And what I realized is, first of all, not only is she right, but no one really, there's tons of people who never figure out what that passion is. I'm just feel fortunate that I found mine. But so when I was 8, my mom said, honey, you can be an artist one day. And I looked her dead in the eyes and I said, Mom, artists don't make money till they're dead. And she looked at me and was like, what the fuck kind of kid am I raising?
God.
What? Oh my gosh. She was like, oh my gosh. And I probably at that point, that's what society had kind of put into my mind as a kid, right?
1,000%.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, 33 years young. So, back then they didn't really put a lot of money and stuff into the arts. Yes, there was always money in the arts. Let's maybe correct myself a little bit there. But now, because of the way society works, and we have collaborations galore, right? Because we're a society of consumerism. So now art has really pervaded into all things. At one point, you had people who were known for this or that, but now it's like art is literally into everything, even down to advertisements. So we see it no matter what. But that being said, I think that when I got a little older, always wanted to work in advertising was my thought. I wanted to be a creative director. I went to college, proclaimed that major, stuck to it, got out of college, became a junior art director very young, worked way too many hours in a week and worked for someone else and still was like, this is what I'm meant to do. I kind of believed that there was always this suffering that had to happen for you to succeed. And the truth is there is applied suffering that I think that we as humans put on ourselves to help ourselves grow, but it's not the kind of suffering that most people think they have to go through to achieve what they want or to, achieve or attain the career that they want. So I ended up going into college, as I said, then becoming a junior art director. And I still at that point really felt that other people were better artists than me. I never really thought, I'm going to be a fine artist. But I always painted for fun, something a little bit more therapeutic for me. I always made things, I always really enjoyed it. And it was just kind of one of those happy circumstances where I had about 6 pieces that I had made in technically what you call a series now. But I mean, I was doing it for fun. I just made a cohesive body of work. I had, I guess, had the feeling like, oh, maybe I should just make things that look good together. Kind of fits my brain mold. I tend to be type A, but made these pieces. They were sitting in a friend of mine's home, and a guy came in to look at a piece by a much more well-known master in terms of art and was looking to probably spend quite a hefty penny on a nice piece of art, and came into the house and walked around and was like, well, whose are these? What artist is this? And my friend was like, oh, well, that's my friend. She's an artist. She kind of did the fib, did the little bit of a fib.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're for sale as well. The guy was very interested. So she called me and said, hey, I had this guy here, and he's an older gentleman who came literally straight from, I think, either Ukraine or Russia, which is unfortunate that I don't know the answer to that, considering
considering
our
the
times. Sorry, guys. But came here American dream story with just $20 in his pocket kind of thing, and became very successful and liked art. So she said to me, go meet him for lunch. He's a little bit more old school, go meet him for lunch, sit down, bring your portfolio of the images of the art. I told him that each one was $6,000. Is that okay?
Get out of here.
And I looked at her and was like, are you fucking kidding me? No, I told him they're $6,000 each. I'm like, okay. And she's like, no, he'll pay that. You should just go and speak to him. Okay, so I had sent everything digitally to him first, came
Yeah.
there with everything printed, which no one does anymore, which I guess, especially for an older generation and for me as well, when you have something tangible, there's something nice about that kind of breaks that barrier, especially when you're spending money. So
Yes.
you're like, okay, well, at least it's in my hand kind of a thing. Really great lunch, had like a 3-hour lunch with this guy, and he said, okay, I think I'm interested in 2 pieces. And that was more money than I was ever going to make ever at that point in my
Right.
life in one chunk. He asked me, he was so curious about when I wrote what we call art annotations, which is just a description of why you chose the colors, the piece, the composition, why it feels that way. And because I came from advertising, I tend to have a little bit of the gift of the gab and
Right.
words. And that's really what like sparked him, which I didn't expect.
Not just the artwork,
No,
but the
it was
personality behind it.
the way I spoke about it was really what sold the art. I'm like just being brutally honest.
Yeah.
And he said to me, okay, I want to have lunch again with you next week. I go, okay. When he came the following week, he told me he wanted all 6 pieces, but the rule was that I had to take those art annotations and have them made and also framed to hang by the pieces in his home.
Get
So
outta
it felt
here.
like a museum
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
So he bought all 6 pieces, guys,
Boom.
and I took $36,000 and I quit every other job I'd ever had and I put it in an LLC and was like, okay, now we try. We try as hard as we can to make this work as an artist. And, if I never try, I'll always wonder. And I had
Yes.
done a lot of other creative jobs in my life, which never really brought me joy. They did to certain aspects, but I always would quit or change jobs. Being an artist is the only career I've ever had where I plan to have it for the rest of my life. And I have never thought I would say that about anything ever.
Isn't that phenomenal?
It really is.
Like your face is just lit up right now telling the story.
Oh, good, is it?
Absolutely.
Because I still feel so, I always say, like, I'm so grateful. I feel so lucky that happened for me. And, there's some people who are in my life that do believe it's all luck. Okay, maybe in the beginning, the chance, once the chance was there. But A, I had to take that chance. And B, I had to really bust my fucking ass to get to where I am now because it's not easy.
once you get your passion and you can visibly, for me at least, when I visibly can see where it's going to be in time, then there's the worry of losing it. And you don't want it. And that's when all of a sudden, a lot of people say, well, I'm all in. And I can admit this, like a year or so ago when I was like, or 2 years ago when I started Lyfe Choyces, I was like, well, I'm all in. But I wasn't. I wasn't putting all my time into it. I wasn't putting all my money into it. But once your passion becomes your visual mindset, let's say, it shifts. You don't want to lose it. So you have to do everything you possibly can with every minute of every day you have to get it to where it needs to go.
Absolutely.
A little parallel from a few points that you just made. I was an art student when I was in high school, but my father back in the day was a lawyer and a professional, and always said the phrase, you can't support a family being an artist, and not saying he was right, not saying he was wrong. It was the times that I was brought up. I'm a few years
It's very common,
on you.
by the way. It's a very common thing, I think, that people told their children.
Especially back then. I mean, I was born in the 70s, so teenager, kind of like in the 80s, 90s. And the funny thing is how you said art isn't everything, and it absolutely is, because eventually my life, the largest portion of my life, I've been a chef. And
which is an artist, ladies and gentlemen, which is 100% an artist.
Thank you so much.
100%.
Back in the day, it was more of the flavor of the food and what the dish was made out of. And over the past, 15, 20 years, it's really become the artistry behind cooking. Not just the technique of doing it, but the presentation of it. And, the new age chefs that are doing gastronomy cooking and all these other different ways. I mean, literally you can go sit at a table with no plates and no cutlery and eat off the table because they've made this abstract painting out of this massively wonderful dinner.
You're talking about Grant Ashertz.
100%,
Yeah,
right?
my man from Alinea.
Dude, he's killing it. And we talked about this, I think, with either Sam or Daryl, who was on the show already, how he worked with, was it Bouchard? He worked at the French Laundry.
Yes.
And the chef, after he had learned as much as he could, literally said to him, listen, I can't teach you anymore. You need to move on and become you, which is good and hard at the same time for your mentor to tell you, get the fuck out. It's time to really fucking put your power behind what you're doing. The other thing I wanted to mention is your mom, who I know not a lot about, but she's into Does she still do the landscaping
Outdoor
and
living
stuff?
design.
Outdoor living design.
Yeah, she still so she still owns that company. So my mom actually in 2020, she moved to Sardinia, which
Get
is an
outta
island
here.
owned by I'm going to see her on the 20th of this month
That's
actually.
awesome.
For anyone who does know my mother, she is like, first of all, can never sit still because she's always got something creative going on. Which is actually now, as I get older, I realize she probably did have a huge influence on me being creative because although my mom is not a visual artist, the truth is being a landscape designer and architect and someone who can look at a space and design things is an artist as well. And she, she just happened to end in terms of landscaping as that was her final kind of job that she's held. But she designed homes. She was a real estate agent before that. She's always been a woman who can reinvent herself.
Right.
But it's always been, I say that you can bring my mom into any space and it's like she can visualize exactly what it's going to look like and exactly what it should look like with like, that's it.
In a moment.
In a moment. And it's not like having that spatial creativity and taking something blank and knowing if you move this around and how things work. That's not an easy task, I realize. Everyone has Pinterest now. It's like, I want my kitchen to look like this. You bring it to the contractor. My mom's like,
Yeah.
she's like the original Pinterest. Her brain just works that way. It's amazing.
Right. Well, that's the point I was going to bring up is like, even as a child, even though you may not have known it, because we don't really grab onto a lot of stuff when we're younger in the big picture essence, is that your mom, is an artist. I was at your house once. It was you, me, and Miles, I think. And we were sitting out back, I remember. And because I'm a very nature kind of person, I looked around, I was like, wow, this place is so fucking cool. And you had mentioned that your mom, did all this stuff. And as a single mom, bringing up her daughter, and whether she was trying to or not, you eventually became an artist yourself, which is like maybe by osmosis. But I mean, I think it's so amazing because my mom also has always been an artist. She's always painted and drawn, and she's getting back into it now at almost 75 years of age. And it's amazing what we hold on to from our parents and put forth into our passions. And then the other thing you said is how, you're lucky that you've found your passion, but your passion has changed from one thing to another. It's stayed in the realm of art, but it's gone from one job to another. I've talked about this before. My passion for food has always been there. It has gotten me to where I am now financially. But now that I've found podcasting, which in essence, more of the conversational situations that I put myself in, it's what I'm meant to do. Your mom was given a gift of spatial recognition, let's say, and creativity in order to set up any room the way it wants. And I think yourself and her, myself, and other guests that we have on here is we have an understanding that it's a gift that was given to us. That we don't necessarily want to say own it, because we don't own anything. We have to let everything go when we die. But we're given a gift that we're so happy and grateful to have that we do the best we can with it.
I think that also, so first of all, I totally agree with everything you've said. But I also think that shockingly, once you realize okay, yes, you're a chef, right? And then now you've been given this other gift. I think that as creatives, once one thing is shown to you, you realize how that could be translated across multiple platforms or mediums. So in my experience, I worked in hospitality pretty much my entire life, like all through college, everything else. And I loved it. I have a deep love for food, as you know. But it's so crazy to me that I think a lot of people don't realize that when you work in a restaurant, it is a very social environment. And one of the greatest things about being a chef in a kitchen is all the shit you get to talk, right, to everybody on the line. You're constantly talking to someone while doing something very, very high energy. And I think that creates and molds a certain type of person who is very personable. And in essence, not everybody, there can be people who are personable who have nothing to say, but you happen to be a person who's very multifaceted, have always been good with people, and you happen to be a chef. So even though you didn't think about podcasts back then, even when I first met you, when I first met you, I wasn't a full-time artist by any means. Yeah. And it just happens to be one of those things that you never really realized, all those skills can cross, multiple mediums. So it does make sense to me that you found something like that.
I want to thank you so much. Like I kind of almost have a tear in my eye, because like hearing someone speak about you in such a wonderful way just kind of really, it just hits home for me. So thank you for saying all that. And you're right. Like, you don't realize that while you're growing up and doing different jobs, how much of those things are going to navigate you into like what you might actually be meant to do in life. And it's hard sometimes for some people because they might be sitting there right now watching us here on the podcast, and they might not know what their passion is. The thing that I love the most about it is the fact that, you know, for me, and most of my guests right now are people that I've known for a while, or some that I've met over the past couple of years, is being able to sit here with someone who knew you from before and now seeing them as such a great success. And like, it's just like, cause you just like, you light up a room. Okay. Like your smile is infectious, and you can see how happy you are at the fact that you get to do what you love to do every single day.
There's bad days too, Bradley. There's bad days too.
Oh,
Trust
we
me.
talk about that on here. That's why we say the good
Not
and the
always,
tough
but
aspects.
today is one of the really good days for me.
Right?
Yes.
And we've said this so many times on the podcast, is that what I'm trying to do in my life is I'm trying to have more happy days than non-happy ones. Mm-hmm. And because you've brought it up, you know, life is a roller coaster. Everyone out there, I want them to understand, if they don't already know, we all go through it. Every single person has a backstory. Even the most successful person, the happiest person that you see every day, they're that way because they've gotten through the adversity.
Of course.
So in your life, let's share a little bit with our viewership, our listenership. What types of adversities have you gone through? How have you dealt with it for yourself to get you to that more positive mind frame? Or when these adversities come at you currently, because they're always going to, especially when you start doing really good, they're going to come at you harder. Mm-hmm. What kind of things have you done, or that you do, or that you practice in order to get through those rainy days?
Okay. Great question, and I like that we're highlighting this, because I think a lot of people, depending upon, you know, whatever your career is, but for me, they think that being an artist is this like really lovely, glamorous thing. Like, oh my gosh, you just get to travel and blah, 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 and it must be so great. And it's like, dude, there are days where there's days, no matter who loves their job and no matter how much you love it, there are still days that I don't want to do the work. You know, you have days like that. But as you mentioned before, once you have something that you love and it's your passion and it's your career, you don't want to lose it. So I find that drives me on the days that I don't want to do things. And I also try to listen to myself on what I know is a healthy time to like take a break. You know, it's very easy to burn ourselves out. Very, very easy, no matter what you do. And so I think that balance is really important. And for me, I've faced a lot of different types of adversities. And I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I think that a lot of people, and women as well, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they like to highlight the fact that they're a woman and they've gone through so much adversity because of their gender.
Okay.
Now, they're not wrong. That definitely is a thing that happens no matter what in any career. But I don't like to think of it as the reasons these things have happened to me is because I'm a woman. Okay, there are some factors of like I get paid less because I'm a woman and things like that. But I try not to ever concentrate on those things, because I think that when you do, you're putting too much attention on things that then will hold you back. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
I'm just like, we're human, and if you want to be paid as much as men, then you're going to work for it and make sure that you're the first woman they ever pay as much as they pay a man. You know, like
that.
I'm more driven as a human being. It doesn't matter about my gender or what I look like, or that's never been a factor for me that makes me feel like it's a hindrance or a strength.
Right.
It doesn't mean that other people who have opinions about being a good-looking woman or a smart woman or any of the things that, yes, they have affected their careers, and there is truthfulness to it. And it's happened to me as well, but I just try not to say that those are adversities. I think that's just part of the job, you know,
right.
Comes with everything. But I have faced adversity in quite a few ways. Well, first of all, I think that in the beginning, when I started to join galleries, you forget that when you're an artist and you're working for yourself and you're creating everything on your own, that's a commodity. You know, anything that's a commodity that can be sold. Sometimes people also consider you as a human part of that commodity. They don't know how to separate. You know, when you're creating a product or something to them, they also find you to be part of that product. So there's not as much respect for your time or who you are, and they just expect you to get it done. I'm really great with pressure like that, so it doesn't really bother me. But there are times where I definitely feel that strain. And how I've learned to kind of balance it is to stand my ground, because the truth is, I think most people think, oh, I can't say that, or I can't ask for that because they'll say no. Okay, well, if they're going to say no, then ask anyways. You know, there shouldn't be fearful of that.
Right.
And if anything, a no is always a no until it's a yes. You know, when it comes to business, that's all that success is just a bunch of failures beforehand. And I know that's like cheesy and trite and everybody says it, but it's really true.
But it's a fact.
I still fail all the time.
Yeah.
Like every day in my career, I fail, or there's been times where I've made entire series that I'm just like, ooh, I don't know about that. A little bit shit. Maybe I missed the mark. Just had one too many coffees one day and thought this was a good idea. It's not. Like, you know, that happens to all of us. We all have our like give and takes. But to be honest with you, I know you're asking me to tell you like all the really, really hard things I've gone through. I don't know if I think of them as really, really hard. I think it's just like
more of a challenge.
It's just a challenge. And if I didn't have those things, then to be honest, life would be really boring. If it was just easy, like one way elevator to the top, I'm like, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do in the elevator? It's like bad music playing. You don't speak to the person there. It's like your version of yourself that you are not.
Right.
I don't want that. I want the elevator that stops on every floor and like you got someone's dog and someone's kid and a kid who presses all the buttons and, you know, like I want that. I want that. I
love that visual.
I mean, the kid who gets in, you're like, God, this fucking kid. But that's what life is too. It's like you have to stop, you have to figure things out. And for me, I'm constantly just tweaking and changing things and how I do them to see what's, you know, the best for me.
I think the best way to kind of wrap that whole thing up is you have a wonderful mindset. You know, if you have that ability to look at adversities as challenges rather than something that's going to keep me down and not allow me to become successful, that you just have a great mindset. You just look at it in a much better, positive way for yourself.
Oh yeah. And I have always, as I said before, I'm a person who strives for success really deeply. And I've learned that there's also unhealthiness in not separating yourself and your career. I always wanted to be the best, and I still have such a long way to go. But sometimes that makes me not stop and appreciate how far I've come. Because for me, once I achieve something, I'm like, okay, what's the next thing? Always, what's the next thing? But I don't stop to kind of like revel in any pride or anything. My mother and my friends are like, hey, you should feel really good. You just did this. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, gotta go. Next thing.
Do you know who you sound like right now?
Who?
The Kobe Bryant.
Oh.
No, like straight
Wow.
up. Like no, because
I'm gonna cry.
I wasn't huge in basketball before, but you know my roommate TJ, and he's huge into basketball, and like I mean he loves Kobe, and so over the past like year or so, I've been like obviously watching a lot of his Mamba mentality is fucking killer. Okay, it's just amazing.
Incredible.
But he literally said like when he's won a game or won a championship, he in that moment, yeah, he appreciated it, but he goes right back to the very next morning 4 a.m. he's at practice. Why? Because I gotta now achieve the next thing.
So they call it a sled dog mentality, apparently.
Okay.
This is like people tell me this. So they say, like, I've had this conversation with people before. It's like, hey, you know, when you get to be someone as successful as like, you know, Rihanna, right? First female billionaire. And it's like, why does she wake up and still work every day? And it's like, because it's sled dog mentality. She's a person who is happy to work just to keep working, because once you achieve things, first of all, like money is a whole other motivator for people, I'm sure. But once you get to that amount of money, no one needs that amount of money.
Right.
No one.
Yeah.
When you get to that point, it's no longer about that. It's just the sled dog, right? A sled dog is just happy to pull the sled every day. They need to let that energy out, and it makes them feel their best self. It's exactly what it's like, I think, for success.
I could be wrong, but because I'm a creative, and most people that sit in this chair are creatives in some way or not, and everyone's kind of like the same way about how they are with work, it's you don't want to stop. You don't want to be complacent. You want more.
You feel bad.
Yeah.
Like actually emotionally on the inside, I start to feel bad. So I kind of have this same feeling going on now. I go to the gym now like 4 to 5 days a week.
Love it.
And I wasn't like an unhealthy person before, but I definitely wasn't like, addicted to going to the gym. I don't know if I'm still not probably fully addicted, but we'll see. It's getting to that point where I'm like, okay, I feel guilty when I don't go, but it's mainly
1000%.
that I just feel great after I go. I try to tell myself it's 1 hour of your day. Some days I don't want to go. I'm like, it's just 1 hour. And by the end of it, if I'm sweating and everything, I just feel better.
Yeah.
I also am not ignorant to the fact that people who are extremely successful, they've got like, the 7 most successful habits of highly successful people. Okay. One is like making your bed every morning, which I do, but that's mainly because I'm anal retentive.
That's from the Marines.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, 100%.
For you, right? But one of those things is, what were we?
7 most successful habits of most successful people.
We said making the bed. The other one is, exercise, going to the gym. They say that if you go and do that like every day, just to get, even if you go for a run, something to exert that out, that's like something that every person who's has been the most successful in their career, something they share. And I'm talking people that are completely different. Some people who take drugs, some people who, it's just something that it makes sense, right? We're humans, we're animals. We should exert some of that.
This, for me personally, the way I look at life is this is my temple, and I've run it through the obstacle course over a lifetime.
Me too. It's been a fun house sometimes.
Sex, drugs, and rock and
Right.
roll. It's
sometimes it's a temple, sometimes it's a fun house.
But as I've become more mature, I've realized what's more important to me, and the fact that I want to say I'm restarting my creative journey, and with what I have inside of me, it is this weird ball of holy fuck. Mm-hmm. And I want to be around for as long as I possibly can to give that to everybody out there. Anyone I connect with on the street, anyone at the gym, anyone that watches this, any of the multiple businesses that I will create in the future. I just want to do that. So in order to do that, I need to be around. Mm-hmm. This has to be my temple now.
Yes.
You have to make shifts. You have to pivot. So now, like, I fall off. We talk about this a lot. You need to be consistent, but you will be consistently inconsistent.
Yes.
That's life. You're human.
You have to have a little bit of room for
Give and take.
Yeah.
But going to the gym for me is huge. Eating right is huge. Treating people right is huge.
Yeah, for sure.
And all of this together, it's not shocking that those habits of those people, and if we're trying to become, maybe not them, because we are us, we are ourselves, but we want to become, in our own minds, what we think is success. We do need to look at the other people that have made their own lives successful and maybe implement the practices that they've done in order for them to succeed into our lives.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I also think it's just, everyone is a little different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone needs a certain percentage of this, that, here and there. And you just have to kind of figure out what that, you're not to, be very funny and backwards in this sense, but it's like everyone is their own cocktail, right?
Okay.
Some people, like an old fashioned. Some people like more sugar. Some people like very little sugar. Some people like more bitters. You're just trying to constantly figure out what your best cocktail of yourself is, right? Like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And it's quite fun when you start to figure it out. And I don't know if this is something that, now that I'm in my 30s, is like have more fun with it. But, because when you're in your 20s, you kind of just do whatever. Mm-hmm. Fall off the wagon whenever you want. Someone offers you, hey, you want to do this today? Yeah, well, maybe not. It depends. But it's really funny how as I get older, you're right about this being like the thing you care about most, especially I think that comes from having something to live for.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When
Having
you have
a
something to live
purpose.
for, then you're like, oh, well, I really got to make sure that everything here is functioning and in tune, so that way I can make sure that I'm still giving myself to whatever my craft is. So I see what you mean and why that's now something that kind of shifts.
Yeah.
I know this is maybe an unpopular opinion, but I think that your 30s are like way better than your 20s.
1,000%.
Oh my gosh. It's
Yes.
like no one tells you that. They just tell you you're going to get old and like you're going to start to like lose your hair and be stressed. And like all that definitely comes with like the growing pains.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh my gosh. Sometimes I'm like, what's your favorite age that you've ever been? Like, and I'm just like, it's nothing. It's never in my 20s.
Right.
I can think of good times and good instances. But
Great
I'm like,
memories.
Great memories.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, thank God that's over.
Well, I'm gonna say this to you. I'm gonna share a story with you. I took a trip around the world. Most people know that already. Mm-hmm. And I met this woman. I don't remember her name. I was in Scotland, in a town called Oban, which is my favorite Scotch. I had to go up there in the Highlands, and I had to go to the distillery.
I love Oban too.
It's
good.
amazing.
So good.
And so I met this woman, and so I was on my trip. I was 38, and this woman was 50 something, and we had a conversation similar to this. And she literally said to me, I'm sure you're enjoying your 30s, but just wait till you get into your 40s. Like, you're really going to become like the truest you. You're going to stop caring about this, that, and the other. And she said, enjoy them, because you have no idea how amazing your 50s are going to be. And I love that. I've remembered that.
Wait, that's so intriguing.
2016 is when I had this conversation. And Tice, who's behind the camera here, he's a younger gentleman, and I'm honestly I'm hoping he looks at me as a mentor, because that's kind of what I've been trying to do with him. And I'm telling him right now, listen, you're the age you are, but you can't be that age anymore. The next 10 years of your life, you need to fucking become a business. You need to become an LLC. You need to get all this work done so that when you hit your 30s, you can really enjoy them in a much easier way than someone like me did, because, where I'm at now is where I want you to be at 30. And I'm 45 years young. But I honestly will say this, because I'm in my 40s now. And we celebrate on this show, and I feel like most people that sit next to me celebrate it as much as they can, is zero fucks giving.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And you didn't when you were 20. If you did, I applaud you. I mean, if you had that much self-awareness back then, I'm on your side. But most of us didn't. We were wrapped up in what other people think and say and do about you. And then you get in your 30s and you start getting comfortable with who you are, and you become more self-aware and realize what's more important to you. And you start shifting away from those who say this, that, and the other about you, because you just don't want them in your life anymore. And I'm telling you, as you go through your 30s, your 40s just amplify it. Just amplify it. I have no idea what my 50s are like, because I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm close. And I'm excited for it. Young. Exactly. But I'm close, and I'm excited about it, because when I had that conversation with the lady, it really set into my brain. And the trip, I was 38, and when I got back, I was a totally different person. I mean, you travel. You know what it's like. You know the education that you get from traveling
100%.
Changes your life. I became the best version of me on that trip. And when I came back, unfortunately, life comes back into play. Work, paying bills, all that sort of
like
shit.
Muscle memory, too.
Yeah,
You can feel yourself sinking back into what you once were.
And most people might lose that person. And I've mentally tried to hold on to that person as much as I can, with the memories from the trip, with the people I've connected with. And I try to implement it more in my life every single day. So all of that is true facts. Your 30s, way better than your 20s. I agree with you. Your 40s are going to be friggin' amazing. I can't wait for I'm waiting. I'm enjoying the process to get there, but I know it's going to be phenomenal, because I know where I'm going to be in 5 years from now, what this is all going to turn out to be for me, just like where you are now at your success as an artist. Can you fathom what it's going to be like? I don't know how far away. It's 7 years from now when you start hitting your 40s.
I think about this all the time. I always think, I'm like, what kind of art am I going to be making when I'm like 60? I'm always like really mind boggled by that. I'm like, what's that going to be like? Also, I really, I love that we're having this conversation too, because I think that there's something that people also don't tell you about as you get older, your 30s and things like that. It's that you start to, one of my best friends I've known since I was 6 years old, her name is Kat Ward. She's actually our District 1 Commissioner of West Palm Beach.
Okay. Shout out Kat Ward.
Yeah, shout out Kat Ward. She's also a lawyer and a wonderful mother. She's just a multifaceted, amazing human being. And I'm fortunate that she's been not only one of my oldest friends that I've had my entire life, but we've stayed friends. We've never really had a real fight, I don't think. When I think about it, we were just two kismet kind of souls that were meant to be best friends, which is quite funny, because if anyone knows her, she's about 5'10" and I'm 5'2", so we're like Bert and fucking Ernie around here, and our whole lives it's been like that, her token small friend that she loves. But she told me years ago, because I was always a person who knew a lot of people, I had a lot of acquaintances. She told me years ago, Kayla, you got to trim the fat. You need to trim that fat. And she's always been a person who really is quality over quantity human being. And that definitely trickles into her choice of friends and the people she keeps close to her. And there is something really beautiful about that, mainly because she's so incredible that I don't blame her. I wouldn't want everybody to try and steal some of that energy, and she tends to protect it. But one of my biggest challenges as a human being, maybe not career-wise, is having to slowly cut people out of my life that I once was very close with, or thought I was close with. Friends. Friendship comes in so many forms and so many ways, and I think that people also, they have a friend that they like to go out and get fucked up with. They got a friend that's their creative friend. They have a friend who's a confidant. What's really, really interesting to me is that it becomes very difficult as you get older for me, because I feel like I have so much love, and how am I going to justify to this person that I no longer want to keep them in my life? But the truth is, You have to do that. And that is something that comes in different difficult forms depending upon who you are. But I am grateful. I'm still a work in progress. I haven't been good about
We all
chopping
are.
everyone off, you know. But some people are really, it's very easy for them to just be like, okay, done here. I respect that. I'm a little bit more emotional in terms of these things. And now that I'm getting older and I have started to trim the fat, so to speak, I feel better.
Right.
The steak tastes better.
Absolutely.
Still leave the marbled fat on the inside, you know, those are all the good parts, but everything else is like, it's crazy to me how many people that I've allowed to be in my life for so long that I don't need everybody to be trying to be a, you know, a professional famous artist who's in museums like I am, you know, that's my goal. But I really enjoy and value the people in life who are well balanced like you and I, who are going for something that they want for themselves and have a passion, but also who can sit down and have a beer with you and have a conversation about, you know, more things than just other people.
Right.
What I've realized is people love to talk about other people and not ideas or anything like valuable that you want to share with your friends. Even if, you know, I have friends who know nothing about art, and that's fine, but they'll still listen to me when I tell them, oh, you know, this painting is actually really cool because it's painted over this other thing. They listen and they're like, okay, that's cool. You know, to share ideas, share things with people that matter, you know, and, and share them over, educate each other. And like, it's okay. We're all allowed to like talk a little shit here and there if we have something that we need to say. But if that's like the only thing you're ever speaking about is other people, you have too much time on your hands.
There's a couple reasons why I love doing this job here as a podcast host, especially on my show here, is all of my guests bring up all the topics I want to talk about without even talking about them. It's unfucking real. This is a common topic on our show, is about trimming the fat and you know, people coming into your lives for seasons. And what I always say that I've done in order to trim the fat is not be rude about it. So we come from a social atmosphere where we do know a lot of people. And I have brought my circle down to very, very few people. And I recently have more or less become, I don't want to say a hermit, but I only go out when I need to get that energy out.
Me too.
Because this is what's important to me.
Yep.
Sharing with other people what I've done to change my life for the positive and to become successful is what's most important to me. And my friends know that, like, most of the time I'm not going to go out with them because I'm going to be sitting in front of the laptop learning more about what it is I could and should be doing in order to get this.
And they respect you for that.
100%.
That's rare, by the way. You know, you always get
I'm
someone who
fortunate.
makes you feel bad. I also think that the people who do want to spend time with you while you're achieving your goals will make a way for it to happen.
They'll make time for you.
Like, hey, how about we just have dinner at my house? You know, like, it doesn't always have to be this thing, this crazy, let's go out and drink beers and all the things, like go to the bar. Sometimes you have more fun just in your own home, having a nice meal and, you know, spending that time with friends.
I'm doing 90 days right now, and I don't know why 90. I just picked 90 where I'm not doing any drugs, any drinking, none of that. If I do happen to go downtown or go out with my friends, I'll just drink water because, like, I have the ability to be social with people without having to have a drink.
So fuck the 75 hard. We got Bradley's 90 here, guys.
Yeah. I mean, I go to the gym at least like when I'm not working on the boats and I'm taken out of the country for a while, you know, I'm at the gym almost every day, at least one day off because you have to have a downtime. But when I say you don't have to be rude about it is, I didn't call people up and say, hey, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. I just stopped showing up at the places where you're always going. Yeah, exactly. And the fact that you brought up the whole thing about basically talking gossip about other people, it's human nature to do such things. I don't know if you do it because, you know, maybe you think you're building yourself up or what have you. I find myself reading and watching and listening to so many different, let's just say platforms, that I start practicing in my head when these things come up how to implement the new teachings I've learned. And one of the things is I notice that it is a common thing, and when it starts happening, I try to either just get up and walk away, not rudely. If it's in an atmosphere, like if it's happening here at the compound and that's the way the conversation's going, you know, I have a dog and she's outside with us all the time. I'll just walk over to her. I'll just remove myself from the situation. This comes up so often. I have to find the quote. I think Denzel Washington is the person who has said it. He talks about how small minds gossip. And then there's two other steps to it where, you know, this kind of mind talks about events, and genius, I think, creates things ideas. Or something. Creates ideas. There you go. So you probably know the quote a bit better than I do.
Yeah.
When I heard that, I was just like, fuck, man, I gossip a lot. Like I found myself like, you can catch yourself.
Oh, me
now.
too. There was a time where I was doing that. Well, it's because anytime I was stressed or unhappy, or sometimes no matter what, we sometimes compare ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a quote that says, my sister told it to me. I know she didn't invent it, bless her though. It's comparison is the thievery of joy. So it's like, that's a big thing for creatives and just people in general. Sometimes when we have too much time on our hands and we're talking about others, it's because we're comparing, whether we know that subconsciously or in the foreground of our, mind. When you're comparing yourself a lot, you then want to tear down so that you feel more up. It's something,
Right.
and sometimes there's people who consciously know they're doing it and that's how they live their life. And then there's people like you and I where it seeps in sometimes. It's because we're human.
Yeah,
And it's also,
absolutely.
we are a product of our environment. Even when we protect that energy and stay, in our own zone, there are times where it seeps in. There's only so much, fortress we can build.
Right. Yeah.
So,
And if you want to be around the people that you love, they're human as well. It just happened. It's human nature to say shit about other people. What I'm trying to implement in my life, because I want to be a better human, I'm trying to implement being nicer.
yeah.
And if someone's doing something, regardless what it is, especially if they're within my circle, I want to promote them. I want to support them. I want to give them praise for what they're doing, regardless what it is. But unfortunately, there'll be people out there that won't do that. And you have to realize by celebrating Zero Fucks Giving is this is a very common thing out there in social media right now is take that negative, that hate that's coming at you that you may or may not know about or you might hear about and flip it into the fire, the fuel under the fire, and use that to just become better at what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
the people that might be saying something about you, they clearly aren't you. They don't know the gift you've been given. They don't know the vision that you have. So, and people don't understand. People are afraid of what they don't understand. And if you're starting out something new, people are really not going to understand it. They're not going to understand why you're doing it. They're not going to understand how you can become successful at it. So it's going to be tricky to navigate through that.
Right.
But remember, stay true to you.
I always find it to be this like double-edged sword. So they say that when we speak of things, okay, like maybe if you're speaking about a person or whatever, or you're complaining to your friend about someone, that means you'll never actually confront the situation or make it better, because by speaking about it out loud, you're kind of like thinking that you fixed it. It's a psychological thing.
Okay.
This is the same thing they say about sometimes when you have a really good idea. Okay, so Sarah Bleakley invented Spanx.
Okay.
And like one of the things she says in her like masterclass is when you have an idea for inventors, you're not supposed to tell anyone around you. No one, not even like your husband or your dog or no one, because people try to tear you down. And the thought is that also when you tell people that you're going to do this thing, it's falsified endorphins. Like you think you already did it.
Right.
Okay. And I always thought that that's a double-edged sword, because I also believe in saying things and putting them out in the world to manifest them. So I was like, okay, Sarah Blakely, I believe you on half of that, but like, where's the middle ground where I can still be putting these things out? Like they say, if you have an idea, it's like 30% more likely to come true if you say it out loud, and like 40% more likely after that if you write it down, and like there's all these things. So it's like, where is the balance that we have when it comes to succeeding, or even just with your relationships with people, right? If you have a problem with your husband and you talk shit to your friends, you might never go home and then tell your husband, listen, babe, we got to talk about this and work through it, because you feel that since you got that off your chest, you're just going to allow it to go, but not really, it festers, right? This is kind of the same thing that happens in both careers and our personal life. And I think that there has to be a middle ground. For me, in terms of like being an artist, or when I have a new creative idea, I tend to not really talk about it. And then it's only when I'm in my finishing stages, or knowing that I've already started to do it and no one can tear me down, that I then will be like, okay, maybe I want someone's creative opinion. One of my best friends is Steve Pershad, and he is my soundboard and my creative confidant. But I don't come to him unless my idea is like flushed out. There's only
Wait, are you talking about the DJ?
yes, Selecta Steve.
Selecta Steve. I love
Yes.
that. We just saw him last night at Austin Republic.
He's amazing.
Yeah, shout out Austin Republic.
Shout out Austin Republic. Shout out Steve.
And Steve. Yeah,
We
that's
love you,
awesome.
baby. I love you, baby.
Oh, that's
He's
hilarious.
coming with me actually in true best friend form.
He was saying that actually last night because he was talking to John Webb, the owner of Austin Republic.
Yes.
Shout out John Webb.
Shout out John Webb.
And he was mentioning how he was actually heading out to Europe in a couple days, I guess. And so there you go, full circle.
Yes.
He's heading out with you.
Yes.
What an awesome thing.
So actually in 2020, March of 2020, before the world shut down. I was going to have my first ever international solo show.
Okay.
And I was in London at the beginning of March. The first week I had a group show with women, and then I was flying home, had like 3 days, and then flying back. It was like at a time when, before, of course, the world shut down, everything was very busy. I was like on my, peak of kind of making it to the next jump and the next jump. And I called him one day, and I was sitting in a pub having a gin and tonic. And I'm like, Steve, I was having a rough day. I was kind of opening up to him about some of my adversities of being part of a gallery. And he said, okay, I'm going to call you back. Called me back and was like, well, I booked a ticket and I'm coming for your solo show in London. Okay. And we were like, and he had never been to London, all these things. Well, then the world shut down.
Oh, fuck.
So we didn't do that. Now here we are, 2023. And finally that the world has like some semblance of normality. The solo show that I was once supposed to have, now obviously a different body of work and everything, is actually going to happen. Here we are 3 years later. So Steve, I talked to him maybe like 2 months ago. We were discussing this, and he's like, "Well, I'm not going to miss it. Once from the world shutting down, he's like, nothing's going to shut me down. I'm coming." So I'll get there actually next week on Monday morning. He'll come about 3 days after. He's going to come to be with me for my solo show, like as a great best friend would. And then afterwards, he and I are going to go see my mother in Sardinia. So we're going to go then relax after a nice work week,
That's not a friend, that's family.
He is family.
That is
You are 1,000% correct. Yes.
And that's what we talk about when we talk about small circles and trimming the fat is the people, when you really do trim the fat, or when I've trimmed the fat, I should say, because I'm not telling you guys what you have to do. What we've done to trim the fat, and you have that small group of people in your life, they're no longer friends, they're family. You can count on them for anything.
100%.
I want to touch on the point that you made a couple moments ago. What were we talking about?
Double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword, yes. So I love what you were talking about because it's two different things. Steve Harvey says what her name was Sarah Blakely said. He says to people that he gives advice to, don't tell your dreams to people, because they have not been given your gift. They've not been given your vision.
They're ready to just shoot it down.
Don't tell your parents, don't tell your friends. They're going to tell you no, and then that's going to make you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't. And then the other aspect that you were saying, which is like to manifest it and to put it out there, is called autosuggestion. So I do a lot of reading, and in one of the books it talks about autosuggestion. So what I do when I have something that I want to do, I say it out loud, but I don't say it out loud to people. So I have a routine in the morning and the night where I say my chief aim, which is a few sentences, a few mini paragraphs, where I say out loud what it is I would like to receive, what I'm going to do in order to receive it, what I'm going to give back as I'm receiving it. And that's how I use autosuggestion to put my ideas out there into the universe, into the world, but not get shut down by other people's small-mindedness, because that's all it is, in my personal opinion. It's other people's small-mindedness or their fear, whether they like to admit it or not, of you becoming successful. That's right. I'm using a graph of visualization right here.
Yeah.
That's right. That was them.
No, because it makes complete sense what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. Because people are worried. Unfortunately, not as many people have the same mindset as we and many of our guests have, which is we should all level up.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a billionaire by myself. I've worked for them.
It's lonely.
I see what
I'm
their
sure
world
it's very
is like.
lonely if you don't have friends. Yeah.
Everything's a mask. Not saying any of us has a purely wonderfully functional family or friendships and whatever.
Well, you don't know if people really like you for you anymore.
100%.
It's a big problem.
If you and your small circle can collectively together become multimillionaires and then possibly one day become billionaires because of collaborations from all different works that you are doing, why the fuck not?
So I have to say, it's so funny that everything we're talking about today, just like the universe is working in the right way, because I seem to have kind of felt each one of these emotions or thought about this throughout these past 2 weeks. And so, as I said, I went to Dreyfus, and I have friends obviously from Dreyfus who have gone to do like amazing things all over. Some are entertainment lawyers, some are, have their own record company, just really successful. They've all really, and they've done they've bled for it, I've watched all the growth. And last week, I believe Apple Music, I don't know, but a big, publication or article was written about a friend of mine who owns a record label. His name is Elliot Mulhern. He went to Dreyfus with me, and he owns Blossom Records, and he was listed as like the top 5 LA record companies you want to deal with, next to like Sony Records and I was like, that's my boy.
That's awesome.
Very, very proud. And just from that article and then him posting it and then me posting it, I had people from Dreyfus messaging me, including one of my oldest friends who I went to elementary school with, who went to Dreyfus with me, who works for Google Maps. So there you go. Someone also big up there. He messaged me last week after I posted that and was like, isn't it just fucking sick that all of our friends from Dreyfus are just like doing awesome things? And I said to him, it could not bring me more joy.
More joy, yeah.
When I see it, when I think it. But I've always been a person that when my friends and those that are family in turn, are succeeding, I am just like over the moon for them. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of people in the world who feel the exact opposite of that.
100%.
As what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's like, they just want to cut people down. And I liked that you kind of did this whole thing because I think there's a quote, I can't remember if it's from the movie Blow or maybe like, it's got to be from Blow. And he says, they always want to see you do good, but never better than them.
Right.
Like they always want to see you doing good, but never better than them. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was never something I understood. I wasn't born with that, like, jealous kind of like, and that's fine. Jealousy is also part of being human. I wasn't born with that in me. I've always liked to see other people succeed. I was seeing someone do well makes me happy. Mm-hmm. And I've realized as I've gotten older, that's all something that's happened from my experiences as a child. I did martial arts at a very young age. So like you learn to have a respect for the people around you and the team that you build and, the people you train with in that essence. I also did musical theater. So it's like when one person does bad, the whole show looks bad. Yeah. So there is these things that I didn't realize until now when I've kind of done my own digging of why I'm that way. Because when I meet people who aren't that way, some of them are a little sneaky, guys. I've been friends with people that say to me, I'm so proud of you and you're doing so great. But the truth is like when they get a little too drunk or they're, lips get a little loose, they then have some opinions and some things. It's like, wow, she just got that because she's lucky or whatever. I'm like, oof. To me, that's nasty behavior. Yeah. And it's usually people who feel that way that do not succeed. Yeah. Because I think that if you wish ill upon others, you're just kind of carrying around that negative energy and that negative cloud. So nothing can really ever permeate it for you to achieve your success. You got to be happy for other people, guys. Even if it's not like natural to you, I think you can work at it to be better. And maybe there's a reason. Maybe, I just described my great things in my upbringing that made me this way.
Maybe they went through some shit.
They went through some shit at a young age. So that I'm not judging.
Which we know they did because we all go through shit.
We all go through shit. Yeah. But that made them maybe turn a little bit more cold in that way. Yeah. And that's fine. But as long as you can, one of the biggest things that people don't do is just self-reflect. Mm-hmm. I think that that's one of the most important things you can do. And it's also like not nice all the time, by the way. When you self-reflect, you're like, God, I'm a piece of shit sometimes.
Dude, I was in my 20s. Oh, yeah. I've said that many times on this show. I'm very forthcoming with that information. Like in my 20s, I was the most selfish, negative, immature, horrible human being. But I obviously needed to become what I am now. Yeah. Talking about those individuals, I don't hold ill will to anyone who has or is or will say bad things about me. I actually feel bad for them.
I know.
It bothers me. Speaking about being proud of other people, like I'm building my successes right now. I can honestly say I've been successful as a chef. I mean, as a cook, like that's what I've done my whole life since I was 14. It's a very long time. I've worked for the 1% of the 1%ers based for 15 years. So clearly I know how to cook. And now I'm trying to build a new success, something that I have a real deep love and passion for. And, there'll be those out there who don't understand it, and there will be those out there who may say this and that and the other about it, and that's fine. Say it. Like I'm okay with it because you're talking, and I don't look at it as a loss. And it's not going to change the way I'm going to treat you because I still see the positivity in your successes, and I don't have. Kevin Hart says it best. I don't have time in my life to be angry and hateful towards other people.
Oh, I love that.
I don't know how much time I have on this rock.
Talk about a success story, huh?
Right?
Yeah, that's also
comedian or businessman. businessman, comedian.
Well,
You know what I mean?
it's so rare for someone, especially, like you had people who came before him who obviously were successful comics, but they didn't really, bring it to this full level. And for him to be a person who's also like made mistakes, like people forget that he had his image tarnished by a few
And
things.
unfortunately, when you are of that visibility, your mistakes are blown
very
out.
public.
They're
Yeah.
there for everybody.
I always say, some people really want to be famous. And to be honest, with the way the world works now, like if my art could just be famous and no one knew what I looked like, I would prefer that. And I know that people think that's ridiculous, but I really would. I would prefer to just be famous for a style. People see it and they're like, wow, but now with Instagram and everything, people have to know what you look like. And my friends are always like, why does that bother you? I'm like, because I didn't choose to be famous. I want my art to be famous, but I didn't want to choose to be famous. I never had the desire to be like a famous actor or anything like that. And I think the reason is because I do like my certain level of privacy,
There's a big word for it, anonymity.
Anonymity.
There
yeah,
you go.
your anonymity.
Yeah.
There is something very like nice about that as well. Yeah. Well, it's rare nowadays.
Yeah.
Now no one's anonymous. Type in their name to Google and it all comes.
Well,
up.
you look at it this way: you're LLC and you're an artist, but you yourself have become a business. And there are some very wealthy, successful business people who aren't necessarily wanting to be a social media content creator, influencer, but they realize the way the world is right now, you also have to be on those platforms, and you're not wanting to be in the visual aspect of it. Unfortunately, you don't need to from the aspect of you're already successful, you're companies already make a certain level of profit and you're able to keep that wheel going. But right now what we're doing is making ourselves more visible or more visual. It is part of the way the world is right now.
It is.
And you do need to be okay with it. I'm
not okay with it all the days, to be honest with
See,
you, but I'm growing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward, to be honest with you, I don't want to say I'm going after becoming famous because I'm not. What I'm going after is I really want to touch people's lives. Mm-hmm. I really want to be an inspiration, a reason why someone has chosen to go left instead of right or go up instead of down. And from the aspect of being recognized, I can't wait for the day when I'm traveling and I'm in an airport or wherever I am and someone just comes up to me and says, I've watched you for a while. Like, can I have a hug? I just want to say thank you. Dude, I will lose it.
I bet.
Like, I will
I can
just
see the
thinking about it.
know.
Yeah. Like, when that person comes up to me and just says like, dude, you've changed my life. I'll be like, I can quit right now and not worry about another damn thing.
It's, you know what? That's really beautiful that you say that too, Bradley, because people ask me a lot, like, why do you make art? What's the purpose? Like, why do you do it? And aside from the fact that I have this like natural raw instinct that I have to make it to stay sane, I always tell them because I believe in the idea that I want people to feel changed or different. Mm-hmm. Art is supposed to evoke emotion and it's subjective. And I always say, as long as I'm an artist who made people change the way they think in some aspect or another, then I've succeeded.
Right.
That's always been something I felt. And I'll be honest with you, maybe 3 years ago, it could be 4 years ago now, I was in France on a beach having rosé with my mother. And a guy who works at the beach club comes over and is like, excuse me, people have to be let into this like little nice seated area because they have to pay for chairs. It's Europe. You have to pay to sit on chairs on the beach. It's very normal. And he said, there's a guy who says he knows you. Can he please come over here? I look at my mom. I'm like, what the fuck could that be? Like,
who the hell's here that I'm going to know?
Yeah. Like, who do I? And I said, well, okay, sure. Send him over here. I was tanning topless, so I put a bathing suit top on.
Yeah.
Funny enough, you're in France. No one gives a fuck. And I decided in that moment I was going to cover my tits after the whole world had seen them. But that's okay. My mom, even my mother was like, maybe put a shirt on. Like, what is this? I did. And this guy came up and he said, hi, Cayla. I'm so sorry to disrupt you. I saw on your Instagram that you're here. This is why also you should never post where you are on Instagram in that
Not
exact
in that moment. Yeah.
It was the rosé. We can blame it.
Okay.
But this guy's like, I've been following your art for like 8 years and I just think you're amazing. And I started to hysterically cry. My mom was like looking at me. She was like, oh my God. I was hysterically crying. I'm like, thank you so much. I mean, I just felt so... that never happened to me. Mm-hmm. Someone who I fully did not know this man. It wasn't like someone who knows me or like just the fact that he a guy from France who happened to be following me on Instagram, and he was like, I was walking by when I saw that you posted this, and I thought maybe I'd try to just come say hello, and was the nicest person. Like, not, it wasn't weird. I know probably people are like, whoa, I'd be creeped out, but I just started to cry because I could tell it was so genuine. He shook my mom's hand. I know she's here with her mother. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you guys. Like, just wanted to say, I really love your art. I think you're just a genius, like so magical.
Wow.
And I literally cried and was like, pour him some rosé. Like, I don't know what to do in this moment, but it changed my life forever. And it's happened to me maybe like once or twice after that. And now I have to fight the tears every time. Like, I'm sure that people get used to it.
You got to get used to it. That's the thing. But
I'm still just enamored. I'm like, oh my gosh, like me?
Well,
Are you sure?
It's the fact that you've literally added to someone else's life, you know, on however they may interpret your art, because they may not be interpreting it the same way as you did it. They're interpreting it in a way that's changed them, you know, hopefully for the better. And they're enamored by the individual. And, you know, fortunately, unfortunately, you will become a celebrity in the art world. And that's not like, people don't realize, the stresses that are going to come with becoming successful. They look at it as, you know, we've grown up in a society where we put those who are visible celebrities on a platform, and we think, oh my God, I want to be just like Tom Cruise. I want to be just like, you know, whoever, Winona Ryder, like all these people that, you know, you may just, oh my God, amazing. But you don't understand yet what they go through on a daily basis. You know, like, you know, Michael Jordan cannot go out in public.
Oh, he
and
also
go get a coffee.
He also doesn't.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, he's also, I don't know if you know this about Michael Jordan. I've met him before, actually. Funny enough, I worked in a boutique bar and lounge when I was 18, my first year in college, and I was like a hostess and maybe like a shot girl at that time. You know.
Yeah.
And they told us, they made us all have like a pre-shift meeting. It's like, guys, Michael Jordan is coming in tonight. No one will speak to him. No one will ask him for a autograph. He does not do that. And if you do, we will fire you instantly. Okay. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty aggressive. And my one friend who was like a huge basketball fan walked straight up to him, shook his hand, was like, just had to say, sorry, sir. Well, they didn't fire him, shockingly. I thought he was going to get fired right then and there. But Michael Jordan was just not very kind.
Oh, okay.
And the truth is, I've actually met his two sons before as well, who they did live in Orlando. They went to UCF and played basketball. I think his daughter plays tennis, and she's like really good. Either that or volleyball. Sorry, I don't recall. It's hard.
Which is good. It means you're not stalking his family.
Right. Yeah. And more so, I find it interesting when people are so like amazing athletes, and then they have children, and I think that a lot of those children don't ever aspire to be better than their parent because they think it's like impossible.
Right.
In terms of Michael Jordan, I mean, that's like the pinnacle. You know, that's like, whoa.
You're the GOAT.
Yeah, but then you have people like, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo or even Messi, and like their kids are going to be great, you know.
Yeah.
But like, look, Beckham's kids, I think only one of them plays soccer.
Okay.
Football. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Especially before I'm going to London. Don't crucify me.
Sorry, this will be posted after you've already back probably, so you're good there.
But he, you know, if you're familiar with Jupiter as well, like you can see Michael Jordan out and about sometimes, obviously. Yeah. But he really is a person who is known to like want no one to fuck with him. Yeah. Which I'm sure came from years and years and years of him being completely berated.
Absolutely.
If you've ever seen The Last Dance.
Oh my God. TJ, did you hear that? Have we ever seen The Last Dance? It is literally on the TV a couple times a month, I have to say, at least. It's
impeccable. It's really great. It's a great watch. I'm a huge basketball fan as well, so me and TJ definitely share that.
Yeah.
I'm a Heat fan, you know, so by the way, we're in the middle of, you know, hopefully we'll go to the finals at some point, but right now I think game 5 coming up against the Knicks, I think tomorrow.
Okay.
But anyway,
which will be in the past when this is posted. We'll be talking about the past.
We're really incepting your mind right now, guys. I'm going to make a prediction.
We're in the present, but we're talking about the past.
But I mean, I understand that he chose to be an athlete, and like, you know, with that kind of great, you know, power comes like great responsibility. That's what they always say. When you're famous, I don't think that people really realize what they actually have to go through in that instance. And I like that there's a few things they've changed around now. You know, you have paparazzi that will not post photos of people's children, like famous people walking around with their children, which is good. Mm-hmm. You know, they're trying to protect their
barriers. Boundaries.
Boundaries, respect between people.
Imagine that. Weird in this world,
so
right?
Crazy. So, you know, I do understand that there comes this like level of stuff, but also there is a whole thing where you have people who are at opposite ends of the spectrum, you know. The Rock is like known to like go up and hug your baby and you know, do whatever, and he's just like, he loves it, and he's kind of grown to be that person, that personality. Not everybody has that. Even though you have two famous people, they could be completely different in that instance. So
I always use Tom Hanks as an example. He's one of the actors that I loved growing up as a kid. And growing up as a kid, I never saw anything bad in the newspapers. I'm not that I read them, but there was no tabloids or anything like that that had Tom Hanks in it. You know?
I make the joke to my friends all the time. I'm like, did you guys see the news today? Because now we're in a world where like everyone has unfortunately like sexually assaulted someone or whatever. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's true. Like all these things come out, you know. I always say, did you guys see today? And they're like, no, what? I'm like, Tom Hanks, still the nicest guy in America. Still the nicest guy in America.
You should watch one of the YouTubes I subscribe to is, I'm not going to remember the full name of it, but it's basically The Round Table.
Okay.
It's a bunch of different ones, actually. I thought it was just actors and actresses, but they have like directors and singers and all this sort of stuff. It's the Round Table. But anyhow, the one that has Tom Hanks on there is
probably incredible.
Oh my God.
I love Tom Hanks, by the way. Tom Hanks, if you ever watch this, I love you. I think you're so amazing. Forrest Gump might be top 5 favorite movies of all time for me.
All right. Well, Tom Hanks, if you ever do watch this, reach out to my people. I'd love to have you sitting in the chair next to me. Now, that would be a fucking trip.
Wow.
I also want Dre. I also want Eminem. All these people. I want to have a conversation with these people. To me would just be like, to sit down and just listen one-on-one with them would blow my fucking mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait.
I think there's definitely, it will happen. I was going to say, well, we're putting it out as auto-suggest. Exactly. We're manifesting it in this moment. I mean, you know, everyone has their, what is it, like your dinner guests at a table, right? Dead or alive, doesn't matter.
Oh,
like if you had a perfect like amount of, what is it, like 5 guests you could have at dinner, who would they be? That question actually makes my mind just like go insane, and I can never pick the 5 because it's just, think about that. We'll come back to that.
I mean, it's weird. I'm going to say this, but like right off the top of my head, the first one is my dad.
Well, no, that's amazing.
Yeah, like, I mean, sorry. It's like 5 years ago he passed, but I talk to him every day.
I didn't even realize that when you, oh my gosh. Yeah. Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah, I talk to him almost every single day, like when I do my own meditation, when I'm like out in like the darkness, basically, because I try most days to wake up before the sun rises, and Sushi and I go for a walk, and as I thank God, I thank my dad for being beside him and just helping me. Yeah, so
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, sorry, I was a bit there. Yeah, sorry.
Gonna make me cry in the morning.
But that's Bradley. A lovely. I love that question because there's so many people from different aspects of life, and obviously some that you've never met that you would love to sit down and have that conversation. Like, how did you do it for you? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a rarity that you get people who actually tell you things as well. You know, I think that, well, first of all, on this podcast, I could imagine you being you're very disarming. Does that make sense? I already felt comfortable. We know each other.
Yeah.
But you've always kind of had this air about you where you get people to just open up and kind of tell you things. Something tells me that probably when you meet people you don't know, complete strangers, they like tell you their life story. Does that happen to you?
I think it might be because I tell them my life story.
Well, I mean, even better. Like, I mean, I think that's so great. There's certain people that have that effect on people where they just feel super comfortable telling them everything.
I have a few people out there that I've reached out to be guests on the show, and they're honest with me, and they tell me their own worries about this kind of form for them is just not what it is. And I've said, you know, I really do what I can, like before we hit play, to kind of like set the mood for you so that you are comfortable. And I do try to make the conversation feel like there are no cameras around you. Right. And so if you do agree with me, thank you.
I do. I
appreciate
100%. No,
that.
I don't.
If you ever are out there in the world and, you know, after someone finds out that you were on the show and they ask, please let them know. Like, it's a good thing. It's fun.
I have a whole list of people I could probably send your way.
I love that.
To be,
Oh, thank you.
I was thinking that already 5 minutes ago in my mind. I'm like, you know, there's a lot of people I could put on this show for you. That would be great.
I would love that.
Yeah.
And that's collaboration right there. And that's family helping family.
That's right.
So
that's exactly what we're here
that.
for.
I love that.
You know, you came to me quite a while ago about Lyfe Choyces.
About Lyfe Choyces when we were doing the other route that we were going about.
Yes. And I mean, I always love to be included. And then it just happened to be that when I saw you in the parking lot of a Whole Foods, we like had this conversation, and it's just now I think I've realized we've really made this whole thing come to fruition. You know, it's been back and forth. And it's beautiful to see that you had this whole idea, and then now look at us, we're sitting in these like
Yeah.
lavish chairs having an actual conversation with gorgeous mics and everything else. Like, you should feel really proud about that.
Thank you so much. I do.
Having an idea that you watch come into fruition is like one of the most rewarding, like that's a spiritual feeling, man.
Well, people have asked me, or I've had conversations with random people. I went looking at Office Space the other day, and the person was asking me questions about, like, success and whatever. And I said, well, I am successful. I was like, oh, but how many followers do you have? And I was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Like, I'm already successful because I'm doing what I know is my true passion on many days. I still have to go to work. I still have to make money and pay my bills and take care of my responsibilities. But there are days where I get to sit and do my absolute passion, regardless of what's going to come, what's going to be the byproduct of it, which is the followers, the community, the money, all that stuff will show up when it needs to. But I'm successful because I'm doing what I fucking want to do. Not every day yet. You're not an overnight success. It takes years to become an overnight success. And that's a quote.
I mean, not only, okay, it's funny. Once again, here we are touching on something. I had this conversation last night with my friend. I'm like, I think that people always want, someone was asking me about some of my more personal relationships and with people I've dated. And, I don't tend to, I can be a lot for a normal person to handle because I do have these big dreams and these like big aspirations. And my friend said yesterday, well, what do you think the problem is in terms of the other person? And like, why didn't it work? And I said, to be honest, there's nothing wrong with other people. It's just that most people really want this, like, they think that success is just, oh, I'm going to invent something and then tomorrow I'm a millionaire. Or I'm going to do this and then go on Shark Tank and then that's it. Like, and it's also, everyone's always constantly thinking about money. Now, granted, money runs the world. You need it to make things work and success. And I stress about money just like everyone else. But there is definitely a large percentage of the population that when you tell them about your success, they think it was luck. It happens in like 1 week flat, or, like, I don't know where this thought comes from. It's definitely
it's the programming that we've been given from day one, which
we also live in an instant gratification society now. So I think it's gotten worse, Oh, you want to do this? Boom, you can buy a flight. You want a new car? You go in, you buy the new car, and you leave in the same day with it.
You don't even need to go in.
Yeah, no, you can
can
just
go on
order
your laptop, order your car, and it shows up here.
Yep, straight to your
How
house.
fucking weird is that? We're literally living in the future.
It's
in
so
our present.
insane. I actually had this conversation too with someone about like Carvana.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I've never done that. That's one thing. I've ordered a lot of things off the internet. Oh, never a car.
Never a car.
And I said to my friend, I feel a little antiquated because actually I wouldn't do that. And she's like, oh, you wouldn't? I'm like, no, like, I believe that you have to drive a car and know how it feels to know if you want it. She goes, well, you do. They leave it to you for 7 days.
For 7
and then
days,
if you don't
and you can
like
return it. How
you can
fucking
return
weird
it.
is
I
that?
was like, oh, they thought about this.
Yeah,
amazing. It's true. We're living
And then
in the
my
future.
thought is, how many times can you do that before they say no to you?
Right. Right. How many weeks?
Your
There's
car,
gotta be like
your car breaks down. It's like, oh, but I could just get a car for a month. I could get 4 different cars for a week apiece. So if you guys haven't
Loophole
thought,
in the
Carvana, if
system.
you've not heard of thought of this aspect, which I'm sure you have to limit how many weeks a person can get a car.
Yeah.
Clearly.
There's got to be.
fucking
There's got to
weird.
be some rules.
I'm gonna go want to buy a whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Drive around different Ferraris each week.
Talking about success, I believe it's the programming that we, our parents, our grandparents, for a very, very long time, we've been programmed the same way, unfortunately, because of society and those who are the ones, pulling the strings, the puppeteers. And I think now there's a small shift of people trying to be visible and share the different mindset of it. And it comes down to the new interpretation of what success is. You're right. Money, it's not that money isn't needed. And I try to express this to people by giving unsolicited information. I don't like to just throw my shit out at people and say, do this. But what I believe is that with success, with doing what you're meant to do well and doing it consistently, the money will show up. Okay? Having success as wealth doesn't change your life for the better. It allows you to deal with adversity with a little bit more ease. And I think once you figure that out, you realize everyone has their own interpretation of what success is. For me, what success is, and we talked about this on the last episode. I shouldn't say last episode because we never know which order we're putting them in. On an episode, we talked about this. Success for me is putting my head down at night, knowing that I had a good, happy day. And knowing that I'm possibly going to be given a chance tomorrow to do better than I did today.
100%.
Now, a lot of people laugh at that. Oh, bullshit, you want money. I want to pay my bills. I want to keep taking care of my mom. I want to move this podcast into a bigger studio. Absolutely, I want to make money. But what success for me is having more happy days than not happy days.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's one thing they don't really prepare you for as you get older, is like when you're an adult, being happy is like something you have to work at. They don't tell you that when you're a kid, right? They tell you it's like all good.
Did not
and
get
like,
the memo.
No, yeah, exactly. They don't tell kids that. Well, obviously they don't want to like, tarnish their only years they have where everything is still sugar coated.
Right.
But it's one of those things I think as well that for me, I always say the same thing. As long as I'm, more happy days than upset ones, then that's fine. You're going to have bad ones. And also you want the bad ones because then the good ones would never be as good.
And I try to tell this to people. I try to share with people how I feel about it. And I try to express to my friends or whoever, I'm in the conversation with, is that when you feel depressed or when you have those down moments, is to take a moment to really be okay with being down and really feeling what that feels like. Because, Tom Hanks says this on the round table, and I'm pretty sure it comes from the Bible, this too shall pass.
Oh, yeah.
And no matter how high or low you might be, just as the environment, a sunny day can change into rain and the rain can change back into sun, I would like you to be okay with being down when you're down and really enjoying when you're up.
Yeah.
But knowing that it's going to shift, that's the great thing about being alive and feeling down.
Nothing's permanent.
Makes you feel alive.
Oh, yeah.
And having the choice to, okay, I'm depressed because why? Okay, that does depress me. But what makes me happy? Okay, that does make me happy. All right, I'm going to get off the couch now. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go for that walk because walking and talking to myself makes me feel better.
And that's all things within your control, right? Which is, there's also, I think it's important to signify things that are out of your control that you can't always let dictate everything.
90% of life.
Yeah, literally 90% of life. And it's interesting that you say that too, because not only is most of life like things that are outside of your control, but I think that when you are down and kind of reveling in it does help. That's a form of self-reflection as well. It does help. I think that when we go through these ups and downs and we do have those bad days, people want a quick fix. And they end up, especially with the way that society works, I think they end up being like, okay, well, maybe I'm depressed. I think that people are very impressionable, unfortunately. And if you have people tell you enough that even the commercials, everything we're being advertised and things like, if there's any one day that's off, that's it. We have medicine to fix it. I'm not really into that. I've never been that person. I'm also not overly holistic, and I respect both sides.
Right.
I do believe man-made drugs. Penicillin was a great thing. Let's do it, there are things that work in both favors, so to speak.
Right. But overdoing any one of them is not healthy.
Yeah. I've always kind of been a fake it till you make it person. When you're having a down day, you kind of some days you don't have the good fortune of being able to sit and revel in it, and you kind of just have to push through it, and you're going to fake it till you make it. And then eventually you're like, when the happiness returns, you're like, oh, well, thank fuck for that, I think actually someone had asked Rihanna that question, specifically as a woman. They were like, Rihanna, as a woman, and there's days you wake up and you just don't want to do it, and you don't want to put yourself together, whatever, what do you do? And she was like, I lie. And she was like, I fake it.
Yeah.
I lie. I just, she goes, I don't want to sit and be depressed all day unless it's, a conducive, healthy thing.
Right.
So if that's the case, then, that's that. I lie. And I liked that she said that. This is someone who's highly successful. A lot of people rely on her to run companies, everything else. And it's it happens to everyone. We're all human.
Yeah.
So when you have a down day, if you can sit there and make it a positive workshop for yourself to kind of dig in there, then that's fine. But on the days that I can't, I fake it too.
Well, it's an important point. I think I've done this quite a lot in my life where sometimes it's important to show up.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless.
if you show up, you're already beating like 90% of people.
Exactly. And you do unfortunately have to show up on the days that you don't want to.
Oh yeah.
I say that you have to. What I'm saying is that is the way I talk to myself internally, is to realize that even on the days where I don't feel like working, I don't want to go to the gym, I don't want to do anything. Like I expressed this on the episode that DJ Markham, shout out, was on, and I said, like, the day before he had come, actually the night before actually he came, I was in a very dark place, and I have no problem sharing. That's me.
Me either.
And I sat on the couch and I was in tears most of the night. Why? I can't really tell you why. It was just an overwhelming feeling that I needed to cry. And I don't give a fuck what anyone says, because I celebrate zero fucks giving. I did it. I wanted to. In an essence, I enjoyed it because it allowed me to get through it.
It's cathartic.
Yeah. So even though that stuff happens, I still have work to do.
I think also, not that I want to put you into a box, but I think that also there's a lot of pressure that happens. This is one of the times where men have a different pressure than women, you know. I think that people have programmed men to feel that they can't have these emotional moments and they can't cry and it's not masculine enough. And there's like these things. I never agreed with that. I think actually the strongest, most masculine, healthy men I know are ones that do feel all their emotions and can have moments of, you know, sadness and have no problem crying. I am not a big crier, but it doesn't mean I don't cry. I definitely cry, you know. I don't let a lot of people see it. And that's also something that I've been kind of conditioned in some way in my life to feel like I can't let people see me cry. I don't know where that comes from. Like, no one ever told me that's not a good thing, but there's something in me that made me believe that that was the case. And so I know for men that can be quite hard. And I respect that you still like got up and did the show and did the things, you know?
100%. Like, because what's more important to me is learning why I felt like that, you know?
Yeah.
And knowing my why for doing this is important to me. So no matter what is going on in my life, I'm going to show up to do this because my why is for everyone out there, you know, and also the person sitting with me, because for me, this is therapy. You know what I'm saying? This is literally, there is nothing that's not positive about this.
I think you're learning to a certain extent, right?
Yeah,
like everyone has their
exactly.
own experiences, so you're learning, and especially that makes complete sense for me knowing you on a personal level. That like it's something that brings you joy because you have always enjoyed speaking with people, and I think that you always respect people's different experiences and how they share them and how that shaped them. I think even long before you did this podcast, you've always been someone who shows that they care by asking someone, well, you know, something on their personal level. How did your day go? You've always been a person who takes the time sort of being like, hey, what's up? You know, some people don't take the moment to kind of make someone feel special or seen, especially as their friend, because they're too preoccupied with their own shit to ask. And I think that you've always had that in you. And it makes sense why it comes naturally and why it brings you joy. They say that people who do a certain career or succeed by helping other people are the ones that like are truly the happiest and have the biggest longevity. You know, there's people who become rich because they want the money. That's one thing. But there's people who become rich and successful because they're helping others. And it's like they say that if you do that, it never feels like work, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's actually, that's one of the mini paragraphs that I have in my chief aim that I say every morning and night. Because every single, and this is across the board everywhere in the world right now, every failure that you have is actually a lesson. So don't think of the L as a loss. Think of it as a win. Someone else out there said, yeah, if I get 2 L's, I just put them together and I have my win. So it's all in the mindset. It's all in the way you
like
look
that.
and interpret
I've never heard someone
happening.
say that.
Yeah, it was on a reel. I don't know 100% who it was because it was obviously when you're swiping through reels, you just kind of like absorb what you do and you don't. And yeah, he was like, I get a loss one day and I don't lose my mind about it. You know, I just keep going on. And if I get a loss another day, I'm just like, damn, man, fuck, that's 2 lessons I just learned. So wait, that's a win.
Love that.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I interpreted it.
Love
mean, it was brilliant. Like it just changes it. I'm trying to be like, when I say I'm trying to be as genuine as I can as an individual, you know, it's a podcast. We've fumbled over some words. We've stopped and gone to take a piss. And, you know, when Tice does the editing, it'll look like it was all one fluid thing. I think it's funny right now because of the room that we're in, the AC kicked on. So now there's a much bigger space for us.
That was our energy.
Right?
Just
Was that
so you
what it was?
know,
Just
it's-
energy kind
our
of like,
energy
whoa,
is
it's too
just
big in
pushed
here,
in.
right? We need a bigger
It's
area.
fucking huge
I
in
love
this.
that. I love that because it's very perfect right now, the way it just opened
Well,
up.
do you know that mine started first, then yours started,
Did
and
it?
then now they both went back
Like
together this time.
It's so strange.
I noticed it before.
And even a couple of times, like right there, we're talking and my head moved away from the mic. It's like, this is the reality of what we're doing.
course.
We're not in Hollywood. We're not on a big, huge set. We're doing something that is supposed to be good content for people to absorb and visibly and audioly be okay enough for them to
Right.
want to come back.
Of course.
And I think being genuine and showing, like the room and what it's happening. And like, I've put up some posts on my stories of just the room with all the cameras and stuff like that. Cause like, I want people to see this is just me. This is me having a good fucking conversation with a good human being. And it's real. This is not Hollywood yet.
Yeah.
Cause I know they're going to hit me up one day.
Well, I mean, hey, look at Joe Rogan. He
Kills
was in
it.
Hollywood, and then he
Yeah.
decided, he's like, fuck this place. I'm going to Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for his own personal interests. He also strikes me as someone who's very, very interesting because I like that he chooses people that no one has any idea who they are.
Yeah.
Obviously he has his fair share of people that are famous and, brings different types of personalities. And those are kind of some of the obvious ones that if anyone's a fan of that person's career, they want to hear what they have to say on a personal level. But what I mostly like about Joe Rogan's podcast is that he brings on these people that are just a wealth of knowledge of shit that I like never knew that I wanted to know, but I totally want to know.
Yeah.
And I like that. I think that's one of those really great things. And everybody is a little bit different in terms of how they do things, podcast wise
Absolutely,
or whatever. And that's the beautiful thing of it.
Well, Joe Rogan himself actually said this. I've made this reference before on the show. Is he's made this reference? Might not have been on his podcast because he had another show actually, which was like it was set up in like a living room or something like that. And me and Brian were watching it one night, and he was saying we're in an interesting time right now where like you and all your friends could literally all get on and do a podcast on the same topic, but each one of you would have a different view, a different angle, a different execution to it because you're all different, but you could all be doing the same thing right now and becoming successful at it and create this whole other genre in your life based on what it is we're doing right now in podcasting. The fact that I do watch Joe Rogan and he is in my list of subscription based YouTubes or podcasts, whatever, I do try to emulate a little bits of him, which is I am getting people on the show that are from all different, not just work backgrounds, but obviously genders, ethnicities, just to show everybody that everyone from anywhere, from anything can do it.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
And I think, so obviously like Joe Rogan is a personality as well.
Yes.
And you are a personality in yourself.
Thank you very much.
It's true. I mean, I don't agree to just go on to shows where what if I have nothing to say or I'm the only one carrying a conversation? It's a conversation. It should be between more than one person, not just one person speaking to themselves kind of a thing. And, I think it's important for especially podcast hosts. It's okay to have a zero fucks given mentality when you stand for what you believe. And there's tons of people who hate Joe Rogan, which I don't really understand why. I can understand from their own personal beliefs, but the truth is the man does the best he can in absorbing new information and doesn't just tell you, he'll tell you an opinion and be like, my opinion is completely wrong, by the way, if, it doesn't matter. I like someone who lives in his truth very much so. You have people who are hardcore fandom of him and then some who just don't like him. But I think it is important. You said before that everything you're doing in this podcast is you, it's an extension of you. And that is going to be, no matter what, the most genuine content you can make because it is yourself. No one else can be you. And B, that energy, whether people know it or not, you don't have to say it to them. They can feel it.
Right.
And it's something that people are naturally attracted to. And it's because not many people are naturally very content with who they are. And I'm not saying that you've always been content with who you are, and I haven't, but it's something you work at. And when you get that kind of level of zen that you achieve with yourself and also the ability to know that you can grow or not, that there's something really powerful in that. People are naturally attracted to it. And I think that most of the energy in the universe is kind of naturally attracted to it. This is why you will be very successful, in my opinion.
Thank you. I appreciate
Look,
that.
it's genuine. A lot of people are not genuine these days. Everything is like voiceovers and, TikTok dances and all the things, and that's fine. But like, who are you?
Yeah, it took a lot of effort for me to get on TikTok.
I have TikTok under my name. I don't ever use it. I just have it so no one can have my name.
I mean, right now I'm doing what I saw a reel a long time ago by Ed Sheeran when he talked about social media and whatnot, but what it's actually there for, which is to promote your business. And that's literally more or less all I've been doing now with all my platforms, which is just pumping out stuff about the podcast, and not doing these like dances or whatever that people are like, oh, you should do this. It'll get you so many more views and whatever. It's like the views are going to come.
Well,
it's going to show up eventually.
We said in the beginning, we were like laughing and kind of I said, oh, like a B-roll of like, the fuck ups and everything. That could be a great, just like everything you put on TikTok is all the bloopers from that'd be nice.
I mean, we Tyson and I have talked about this briefly earlier, and we're going to have a meeting in between this, and we have another guest showing up this afternoon to do. Oh, I'm doing 2-a-days right now.
Love that. We love a 2-a-day.
I do batch filming, so we got 2-a-days for the whole week right now, and we're coming up with some new intent ideas on how to put out more and new content and different angles that we can do it. And the baseline is just sharing who I am with people, and it's not all going to be content about two people sitting in chairs. It's going to be a great portion of me and who I am, and sharing anecdotes and stories about my life and what I've done.
Well, that's what people are going to return for.
Exactly.
They're returning to this podcast because you are, the common denominator throughout all of them.
Right.
So it's good. It's also nice that some people think, oh, I can't put myself out there, or maybe they're a little intimidated, or they feel like, well, no one's going to care what kind of person I am. When the truth is, I think more people want someone, as I said, genuine, because that's the rarity these days. That's going to be the slimmer thing. Back in the day, maybe not so much, but now we're living in a world where everything is a faux. So it's nice to have the reality factor.
Well, I want to bring forth the reality of who I am when the fact is, like, there's certain things I don't know. Like when I'm at my day job and I'm cooking and whatnot, and someone asks me, oh, can you make, what, and I'll be like, I'll be honest with you, I haven't done that recipe before. I don't have practice in that. But if you give me a day, I'll do some research. I'll get on Google, because thank God for Google right now. Yep. And I'll get that done for you the best I can tomorrow for lunch. How's that? And they're like, oh, that'd be amazing. Perfect. But I'm not going to lie to someone. I'm not going to tell them I know something that I don't. Well,
you have the drive as well. Like you have that in you. So I think that there's certain types of people in the world who just like to learn, like for the sake of learning. I'm one of those. Like, even if it's something I never thought I would be interested in, I'm like, ooh, teach me. Right. I think that's important. And for you, you're a self-starter. So it's like, oh, I have no idea, how to make a beef Wellington, but I can figure it out for you by tomorrow or like the next day.
It's funny that you say that one, because that's a fucking, people look at it and they go, oh, it looks, no, it's fucking hard, dude.
I've never made a beef Wellington, and it's like on my list of things to do. I've watched like a million videos, obviously. Gordon Ramsay, one of my favorites, someone who also very much is who they are. Yeah. There's no fakeness to him. He tells people exactly how it is. They once made him like this, like villain at one point. Do you remember when he did what was
one
it?
of his shows?
One of the Hell's Kitchen or whatever, and make people hold bread on their faces, like call them an idiot sandwich, things like this.
That was for show.
Of course, there's things for show, but he is very much like who he is. There's a show we had talked about. You were saying before, like there's a show where they sit at the round table. There was a show that James Corden did, and it was called "Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts," and he, of course, would ask these.
Keep going.
Yeah,
Keep going.
He would ask these questions to famous people who are sitting there, and in front of him he has like a gigantic Lazy Susan, and it's all these disgusting things you don't want to eat, like literally. And of course he's like asking famous people things that he knows, he's famous as well, that they can't answer, like their publicist would hate them. And there's things that they answer and things that they don't. And if they don't want to answer it, they have to eat one of these disgusting things. The other person picks it for them as well. Well, he had Gordon Ramsay on the show. Yeah. Obviously, this is a chef, and you have like disgusting things that someone's made up, like clam juice with strawberries and something else, and it's just like disgusting things.
And that's one of the good ones.
Yeah, that's probably one. Exactly. Yeah. The rest is like eyeballs, or, it's like a fear factor kind of thing. And, he asked Gordon Ramsay, he goes, okay, I'm going to name 3 chefs. And what you're going to do is you're going to name them from your most favorite to your least favorite. And you have to tell us why your least favorite one is least favorite. Right. This is a question that a famous person would never answer, right? Because it's like, they look like an asshole. Well, Gordon Ramsay said, fuck all of
Anthony.
you, and was like, named all his best
Yeah,
chefs.
yeah.
And the last person he named, I believe, was Bobby Flay, which is
Okay.
kind of funny. And he was like, and the reason why, Bobby Flay, is because you didn't donate to my charity, so fuck you. And you know what he
Done.
did? And
then
he still ate it.
Yeah, yeah.
And you just got to respect
Yeah,
someone who's
absolutely.
like, I love that's the, that was the thing that pissed him off. That the guy didn't, he's like, you didn't donate to my charity.
Yeah. And it was probably a really good charity.
Probably a great charity, like it's one of those things.
So the reason why I'm laughing and overwhelmed with joy when you're bringing up this particular situation is there's a lot of things in life that happen that just affirm that what you're doing is right and you're on the right path. And this is why I say I know that I'm supposed to be sitting in this chair. And this is why I know that I'm going to be sitting in this chair for a very long time and I'm going to have such an amazing career doing a podcast, because this is not the first time this has happened. Different topic, same things happened. We had this conversation yesterday about that comedian.
Oh, about James Corden.
Yes, we had that conversation yesterday with DJ Merkham. And if you're watching this and they're not that episode than this episode, we're in the present but living in the future while we're creating the past. And I brought up James Corden because of different people's opinions on what you should do. Should you have a niche? Should you just do one thing? Or should you just have a variety show and do it all? And what I learned through researching and watching things was he was not famous. He was not popular. And he went across the board and made a variety show, which did that show and many other shows. And yesterday,
Carpool Karaoke, all the other ones. Yeah.
and the show I talked about yesterday was the eating one.
Yep.
So
Spill your
you
guts or
bringing
guts.
up now him, the whole topic again, it blows my mind. It's literally just the universe saying,
It's
keep
just happened to me
going.
several times today in our chat. I'm like,
it's
oh, okay.
amazing. I fucking love it.
Well, you know what's funny too is he apparently now, like, they will no longer produce his show. I just read an article last
Really?
week. Yeah, they say that like it takes so much money to produce
All of
and
it, yeah.
all of the, because he's
Right.
got the Carpool Karaoke, he's got all the
Yep.
things. Didn't he's done one that's like it's like a rap battle.
Yeah, I fucking love it,
It's amazing.
dude. I've been watching
He had like
that
Helen
lately.
Mirren on it with
Yeah.
and she just like does. She's obviously like, I think she's even like Lady Helen Mirren, or she, or maybe like a dame, like the Dame Judi Dench or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like these different ideas of shows he had. They're very okay. Did you ever watch Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Absolutely.
Which is an improv.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. When I was a kid, I went to an improv camp during the summers.
Okay.
And it was really just incredible. I definitely was not a person who was as quick on my feet. I wasn't the worst, but there were people that were just, I mean, they were born for it,
Right.
like Wayne Brady and everything when you used to watch those shows. And I think that James Corden is one of those people that just has that mind that then can think of all these different situations in which you could create funny content. And it's not cheesy, it's very well done, it's well made. And when I read last week that they were no longer going to make his show, I was like, I think it's the late show or whatever. I was a little bit sad, but they said, the money doesn't equal out. I'm like, well, the
Right.
joy is way higher though.
yeah,
Can you
yeah.
just eat the money so we all can
I'm
be
sure
happy?
he's got something else in the mix, though.
Oh, I
'cause,
could only imagine.
He's
also
super
like
smart.
an extremely talented
Yeah.
actor and singer. He did
Right.
like he was in Into the Woods, like the movie rendition of it.
Okay.
He's done like a lot of Broadway stuff.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. That's like a certain type of person, improv based, whatever. He's there to kind of like delve into human interaction, how it happens, and like what's the best way we can get that on camera. So
Some people are just born for whatever it is they're doing, and he clearly is. And what I love about him is that I don't feel like he's acting or not being him. He like, you just, no matter, even if he's doing like a satire or a joke or whatever, I just feel like it's the most him coming out in every situation. I saw the rapping thing, and I saw David Schwimmer and him, which David Schwimmer is typecasted, unfortunately. Sorry, David.
yeah, I think
and-
he touches on that in the episode, right?
Yeah, probably. and the fact that the two of them were rapping, like I was just like, oh my fucking God. Like, how can you not watch this right now? So kudos to him. He's broken the barrier as to what you should do. And he was able to create his success by doing what he thought was the best, which was sampling. And he says himself, there was a lot of things that didn't work. I tried a lot of things that were complete failures, but I kept going and I made this happened. And he's like, I think there was like a graph where like out of all the late night show hosts or whatever, with their visibility and their stardom, he like outweighed them in such a short period of time, which again, that for me is telling me, keep going forward, figure out what you think is the right thing to do, fail at some things, learn from them, keep going, make more, don't stop, you will become the success that you want to become because it's your vision and it's your passion.
It's I couldn't agree more, because it's funny enough. There's an artist who I very much respect and value, and his name is Daniel Arsham. Some people might know who he is, maybe others don't. He's now done a bunch of collaborations in multiple ways, but he's a guy originally from Cleveland, Ohio. He lived in Miami. He went to Cooper Union, which for most people who don't know is an art school in New York for university, and it is free tuition, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, so think of how completely competitive it is to get into that school.
Okay.
So he's obviously like a visual artist, extremely talented.
Right.
Now, he's made himself into this like very, very, it's just insane. But he a lot of times will post a lot about like some of his older tweets or things from when he was younger. He's probably maybe in his 40s. He's still very young, but he'll post some of the stuff from when he's 20, And they're always these very like colloquial statements that obviously he always had that drive in him to succeed. And he did it in the time frame that he did because every day he worked at it. And one of the things he posted the other day was, even when I didn't know how I was going to be a famous artist or a professional artist, I still showed up to the studio every day from 9 to 6 and painted. When there was no money, when there was no lights, when there was no anything, I still showed up. And there is something to be said about that, because that's the work ethic. That's what we were discussing that people don't want to do, right?
Yeah.
They think it's just like this shiny penny that just gets dropped in your hand, when the reality is like you have to sit there and like really rub it with a cloth to get it that shiny.
Yeah.
And he's a person who just always kind of tells people that. Oh, it wasn't easy for me. I know it looks nice now, but this was years of blood, sweat, and tears, years and years and years of like, even on the days I didn't want to do it, I still did it. When I was broke, I still did it. And that's certain parts of that. Forget about just the fact that you're doing the work, but that is what molds you to be a person that is successful. That is part of it, is the pain, the applied suffering, as we were saying before, like that applied suffering. We all need a little bit of that, because it keeps you just out of your comfort zone enough to where some things grow and then some things won't, and that's where you then branch out more. You know,
let go of that and you move
Let go
on
of
to
that,
what
move
is
on.
growing,
Yeah,
and try
of
something
course.
else that's out of your comfort zone again to see if that grows.
Yeah.
We talk about it quite often. I talk about it every day in my life, how I manifest and create my life the way I want it through auto-suggestion and everything like that. And I'm not saying to people that I just sit there and I auto-suggest something and boom, the next day that's what I get. No, what I'm saying is I implement the practice of things like manifestation and auto-suggestion, and then I go to work. I also grind. I also do the things I don't want to do. I also stay in when my friends are going and having fun, and I just keep going and going. And I know that eventually for me, it's going to pay off in the long run. The process, enjoying the process of the journey is what I'm doing right now, and enjoying the hard parts of it. Enjoying the facts that there are days, believe it or not, there's not enough money to go buy food. I know people are like, what? But you're a yacht chef. I got responsibilities. I have things that are more important to me than that. And right now, that's the sacrifice I make. So it's everything together, just like you've expressed to us today here on the show. There's been a lot that you've done since you were a child. There was a lot of things you've absorbed from other people. There's been some artwork that was not so good, even though you thought it was.
I've also been dead broke before, guys, so trust me.
It's there. I honestly think I'm happy with the moments of depression and I don't want to say starvation, but the moments where I can't afford things, because it's not just showing me how hungry and how hard I want something. It's created a level of modesty. It's created humility, the humbleness that I have in myself. It's made me realize the finer things in life that I want are not the luxuries in life that I want. And that, I think, is something that comes with a different interpretation of success.
Absolutely. I think, I like that you said that too, because just now when you were saying that all that hard work and all those kind of like rough roads that you take, I just told you at one point I've been broke. You're telling me sometimes I don't have money to put. I still go through that now, even though people think because the success has grown or because my art has had a larger expanse, a larger reach, that they think, okay, that means I don't have any of the problems. And I try to tell people that it's like more money, more problems. Like Biggie was definitely right, because it's all relative, right?
Right.
There was a time where I didn't know how I'd pay my rent the next day, and that rent was $500 when I was like, in college. Also, bless us when we think about a $500 rent,
Yeah,
guys.
a
My
little
God,
different
like,
now.
no, that's real funny that I can say that now. But it's like I didn't know at the time how I was going to make it work, but I did.
Right.
And I like that what you're saying. I think that for you and I, success is that we're doing this, even on the days where it's not easy. I'm not sitting here, holding a Louis Vuitton bag and pretending like I'm something I'm not. I had never believed in false advertising. I do believe that what you put out and what you want from the world and can definitely reflect what is to come, and there is a certain level that we have to play the game, so to speak. But I've never wanted to be someone who is falsely advertising, my quote unquote success, because I think you're right. Success is just that we are working for something more than us. Success doesn't mean that you always have money in the bank. It never has.
Be nice if you do.
It's
and
nice
it'll
if
be
you do.
appreciated when we do.
Well, right, exactly. It comes, but I think that I could imagine that people who are already at that point where there is always money in the bank, I bet they miss some of these like grimy days like we've got. I bet they miss like that little thrill, because once everything becomes easy,
Boring.
it's a little boring. Yeah.
It's fun to be in the trenches sometimes.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah. I like it. It also, it pushes me. I like the pressure.
Yeah. I believe creatives realistically work best under pressure.
Oh, yeah.
It's when the best work comes out. And I think being self-aware and knowing that the tough times are there and that you're able to use the tough times to become creative is another driving factor in what we do. And it's also another driving factor in how we have become successful. And I think if anyone looks inside of themselves, they might be able to see what they can pull out of their current, present, or past that could ignite the fire to push them forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
And I want to say I'm cutting it short, but it's been a couple of hours. For those of you watching
it,
this,
guys?
it might be 45 minutes.
Chatting to Brad for
I
2
know,
hours?
right?
No.
We can probably sit here for another 5 and have plenty of things to talk about. That's
Absolutely.
why I'm so happy that you're more than happy, and I already brought up the fact that you'll come back onto the show again. I've always enjoyed you as a human being. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. You will in the future, before we post, let us know all of your socials or any way that people can contact you.
Absolutely.
And of course, because she's already done that, because we're in the future past
to filming the present.
And all of her information, all of Cayla's information is down below in the description here for you. If you want to see her artwork, find out where her artwork might be, you'll come back, you'll tell us how London was and how all that's going. And I look forward to just sharing our lives with each other as our successes become more and more. So thank you so very much for being
Oh my gosh,
on here.
thank you for having me today. It went by so fast.
Yeah.
And honestly, for other people, I don't know if they always feel that way, but I've had such a great energy boost, and this has been really lovely for me because I am leaving to go to my first ever international solo show.
That's phenomenal.
That feeling, carrying this with me, makes me feel really, really good.
Thank you so much. I'm happy that energy can be passed on to you and that you're taking it forward. For everyone out there who's joined us again here today on the Lyfe Choyces podcast, I want to say sincerely thank you for following us. I'm loving the support that everyone's doing. I love seeing that every day, every week, I'm getting more and more followers. Thank you so much, because without all of you out there, I wouldn't be able to continuously do what I'm doing here. So don't forget to scroll down if you're new to the show and hit subscribe, hit the bell to find out when we're doing something new. You can follow us on all of the platforms that are listed just down below in the description here as well. And I look forward to seeing everyone back here next week for another episode of the Lyfe Choyces podcast. And much love to everyone out there.
Bye, guys.
Perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The Journey, Lyfe Choices podcast.